Meanwhile, Jesus was in Bethany, at the home of Simon, a man who had leprosy. During supper, a woman came in with a beautiful jar of expensive perfume. She broke the seal and poured the perfume over his head. Some of those at the table were indignant. "Why was this expensive perfume wasted?" they asked. "She could have sold it for a small fortune and given the money to the poor," and they scolded her harshly. But Jesus replied, "Leave her alone. Why berate her for doing such a good thing to me? You will always have the poor among you, and you can help them whenever you want to. But I will not be here with you much longer. She has done what she could and has anointed my body for burial ahead of time. I assure you, wherever the good news is preached throughout the world, this woman's deed will be talked about in her memory."
Why did I do it? The most extravagant thing that I have ever done, profligate and so public. Why did I do it? Well, you could say I ran out of words. There is no language adequate to speak my love, so I poured it out in perfume. It filled a house with its scent, just as he filled it with his love, overpowering, limitless, but so gentle. As I stood there, it seemed there were three of us, a trinity of action. One simply said, "I love you." One stood there as priest and prophet, anointing a high king. And the third, strangest of all, the third gently stroked onto him the oil mourning for the dead. All I wanted to do was offer myself to him. Yet I heard him say that this one act of love will be my gift to all the world.
Jesus knew that the Father had given him authority over everything, and that he had come from God and would return to God. So he got up from the table, took off his robe, wrapped a towel around his waist and poured water into a basin. Then he began to wash the disciples' feet and to wipe them with the towel he had around him. When he came to Simon Peter, Peter said to him, "Lord, "Why are you going to wash my feet?" Jesus replied, "You don't understand now why I am doing it. Someday you will." "No," Peter protested, "you will never wash my feet." Jesus replied, "But if I don't wash you, you won't belong to me." Simon Peter exclaimed, "Then wash my hands, my head as well, Lord, not just my feet."
The upper room is quite dark, and there is an anxious, apprehensive atmosphere. Fear seems to be crawling out of the walls, fear of what is to come. I'm sitting next to Peter, and I feel him flinch as Jesus comes towards him to kneel at his feet. I wish he were kneeling at mine. I want to shout, "Don't you see? You have to let him. Don't fight it, Peter. Give in." It seems so right for Jesus to wash the feet of those I love. And then he comes to me, and it's different. Suddenly, it's as if my feet have leprosy, untouchable. It is overwhelming to see him kneeling, all his attention on my desperate need, my hidden uncleanliness, suddenly exposed. And then the water of life pours gently over the mess which is my life, and I am loved into wholeness. If I do not wash you, you have no part with me. God of my wholeness, give me courage to receive from you.
After washing their feet, he put on his robe again and sat down and asked, "Do you understand what I was doing? You call me teacher and Lord, and you're right because it's true. And since I, the Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you ought to wash each other's feet." Now, it was the governor's custom to release one prisoner to the crowd each year during the Passover celebration, anyone they wanted. This year, there was a notorious criminal in prison, a man named Barabbas. As the crowds gathered before Pilate's house that morning, he asked them, "Which one do you want me to release to you, Barabbas or Jesus, who is called the Messiah?" He knew very well that the Jewish leaders had arrested Jesus out of envy. Just then, as Pilate was sitting on the judgment seat, his wife sent him this message: "Leave that innocent man alone, because I had a terrible nightmare about him last night." Meanwhile, the leading priests and the other leaders persuaded the crowds to ask for Barabbas to be released and for Jesus to be put to death. So when the governor asked again, "Which of these two do you want me to release to you?" the crowd shouted back their reply, "Barabbas." "But if I release Barabbas," Pilate asked them, "what should I do with Jesus, who is called the Messiah?" And they all shouted, "Crucify him." "Why?" Pilate demanded. "What crime has he committed?" But the crowd only roared the louder, "Crucify him!" Pilate saw that he wasn't getting anywhere, that a riot was developing, so he sent for a bowl of water and washed his hands before the crowd, saying, "I am innocent of the blood of this man. The responsibility is yours." And all the people yelled back, "We will take responsibility for his death, we and our children." So Pilate released Barabbas to them. He ordered Jesus flogged with a lead-tipped whip, then turned him over to the Roman soldiers to crucify him.
How could he do that? How could he wash his hands of you, Jesus, and look into your eyes? I wouldn't do it. But I don't face ugly crowds demanding your death. How could he do that? How could he wash his hands of you and look into his own heart? I wouldn't do it. But my position does not depend on collaboration with Rome. How could he do that? How could he wash his hands of you and face tomorrow? I wouldn't do it. But so little depends on my loyalty. But does it? When I look into the eyes of the oppressed and turn my back because there's nothing I can do, I hear the sound of hands being washed. When I allow the truth to go unspoken, I feel the water running over my palms. When I shut my ears to cries for help, I see Pilate's bow before my eyes.